Shooters, welcome back to another episode of the Shooters Touch podcast with our summer series here as we're taking a little bit of a deep dive into different aspects of the game that we hope both you as players and coaches out there listening are able to take, one, two, maybe four, five, six nuggets from, learn, start to implement, and be prepared for the winter. And so with us today, we have coming back on the pod, Brett Putz. Changed a few zip codes since last time you've been on the pod here, Coach. How are things down your way now as the assistant coach for St. Louis?
It's been good. Yeah, I joke with people all the time, or when people make fun of me about all the moves I've made recently. I told them I invested in U-Haul, and so just trying to get the most out of my investment in U-Haul more than anything. But no, I'm excited. It's nice to be, great to be back with Coach Schertz. Was with him at Indiana State 2 years ago, 3 years ago now. And being in St. Louis is awesome. Like back in the Midwest, unbelievable city, unbelievable campus. Athletic department here. Like we've got some unbelievable stuff. Awesome league in the A10, and so it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I would imagine going back to the moving part, you're getting pretty good at packing and knowing
My
what to
wife
take.
is. My wife is. I'm not gonna say I pack. I drive the moving truck. My parents actually just moved to Iowa City. And my dad had cruise control in his truck, and I joked with them. I was like, I did a 2-day move both ways without cruise control, and I said he was soft for having cruise control in his U-Haul. He didn't have to sit with his foot on the pedal for however long. So.
Yeah, that's rough. So, well, good. That obviously any and all coaches out there know how important that support system at home is, and so being able to have someone that can take care of some of the logistics on things, like you said, as you can kind of shift and make your focus on the court. And so, with that, I do want to shift with this summer series. What we're doing is we're talking about our five senses as a way to recap this past season. And so I kind of give you a little bit of a lead in. I didn't want to surprise you, but so
Mhm.
taking your five senses from last year, picking your favorite things in which that you felt, saw, tasted,
Mhm.
you know all five of them. So I'll let you run with that. I don't want to put you on a spot. You kind of start wherever you want and tell me what your five favorite senses were from this past season.
Yeah, so for touch and feel, I'm gonna try to get some brownie points here since I've been traveling so much recruiting. I'm gonna go holding my wife's hand as my favorite touch or feel there. So that way, if she ever listens to this or someone can send her this clip for brownie points for me. For taste, there's a steakhouse that we went for my wife and I's anniversary. Chris's Steakhouse, by far, it was the best steak I've ever had. It was unbelievable. So I'll go that for taste. Um, for smell, there's just something about popcorn on game day that like really just gets you. For smell. For sight, this has been the hard one because like there's been some really cool things this year because of like moves and traveling and all that stuff. There's some great, I would say, I would say my favorite site would be, um, and this one's a hard one. My favorite site would probably be we were in San Francisco, and I had never been to San Francisco before. And so like I flew from San Francisco to Chicago to go recruiting, and just like flying over the bay in the morning and the sun is rising and stuff like that. It's just like it's just one of those experiences where like I'm from obviously Forest City, Iowa, small town Iowa, and it's just like always a good reminder. There's always like several reminders every now and then. It's like where basketball can take you and the things that places basketball can take you. And so that was always a good reminder for me of that. And it's usually like those type of things where I just like get some experience, some trip, some to see something, that always does that for me. So I'm going to go with that one. And then sound would be Chaifetz Arena as the clock's winding down for us to beat VCU in our like a big run that we had in that game. The sound of the arena and everything like that it was unbelievable. It's a big basketball city, basketball place, and so obviously there's something else that happened at the end of that game that kind of made it a little bit duller. But during the run that we had, the big run that we had, the sound of the arena and our fans was awesome. That's something I'll never forget.
That's amazing. It's so awesome to kind of think back on. Obviously, we have our senses for a reason, and they heighten in different situations for a reason. And it's just something where it feels like it's a good way to kind of think back, and all five of those feel like something that obviously you'll never forget. As you go through the popcorn on game day, that's something, I mean, all the way back to the high school days when they start popping that popcorn. It never changes. Like, it doesn't matter. As soon as you get in the stadium, you smell that popcorn on game day, it's go time. And it's funny on how the sense of smell will do that to just kind of bring back flood you with all those memories. And so, perfect, coach. Those are wonderful ones to be able to kind of kick off and start with here. And so, with that, I guess I didn't even talk about it in the lead in, but we're going to talk some late game situations, some ATO stuff. And so, where I want to start is, what do you guys on a typical week, I know it's going to vary preseason versus in season, but how much time do you guys spend both on film and in practice, kind of going over late game scenarios and ATO type stuff?
So in practice, we do it often. So like what we usually do is, especially in season or once we kind of get in like game mode. So I would say starting because we can start scrimmages so early now. Or the season starts so early compared to what it used to. So like we'll scrimmage someone, I think October 11th or 10th or something like that this year. So like we'll start doing stuff for some like late game things in like early October. So like just putting some stuff in, just so we have it. Like it might be one day where like we're walking through it, guys will go through it a little bit. So we have it like we call it like our black book stuff, where it's like late game, late situation, things, and like black book offense. And it changes every year based on like where our strengths are of our team, and it changes as the year goes as well. But we'll start that in early October, and we'll really get focused on it, live reps on it, um, around that time, around going into that first scrimmage. So what we do is coach likes doing 4-minute games. So what we usually do with 4-minute games, two or 4-minute games, and then we'll usually do 70 up as well. And so what it allows us to do in those games is like you get all sorts of situations because you don't know what the situation is going to be, which is why we like it instead of doing just like, hey, we're doing, you know, 8 seconds on the clock. This is what we're running. It's like, okay, well, like this is what our situation is. And so we're prepared, for whatever the situation might come up in that, that scrimmage, or that segment. And so I really like that just because of the randomness that you'll get. It's more game like, at the end of the day. Now, if there's something where like, hey, it's 2.3 seconds on the clock, like he might shift it to 4 seconds or 5 seconds. Like he will switch that. But those games in those situations allow us to, and we'll do that throughout the year. Sometimes those get cut during the season, given like how much, because we play live a lot in practice, and so even in games, so sometimes those get cut a little bit less. But we always usually have them in every practice from middle of October till the end of the year. Just you know, at this level, you're going to, like my college coach always said it, you play a ton of games decided by three possessions or less. And so being good in those, late game situations, is really, really important.
So is that something with those 4 and those 2-minute games that you guys will do? First, you do those towards the end of practice. Is
At
that
the
kind
end
of
of practice.
at the
Yeah.
end of practice?
So like what we do our kind of segment is we'll focus on the other team. And then like the last 30-ish minutes of practice, we are focused on us. So we're doing our flow scrimmage stuff, which is us versus us, running our offense on both sides. And then we'll do our late game stuff, which is usually us versus us, as well.
And so then with those 4 and 2-minute games, is that something where you guys are having, one staff member take one side, one take the other, and you're calling timeouts in situations, or
Yeah,
how
usually
close are you getting on that?
Yeah, usually coach has the top group. By that time, you kind of know who your top group is. So coach will have the top group, and then one of our assistants, other assistants, kind of dependent on stuff, will have the other team. And sometimes if the guy, whoever has the scout might, hey, there's, 10 seconds left. This is what they do. Like if they're a zone team, hey, let's do it versus this zone because that's what we got to get prepared for, for this upcoming week. Or if it's a switching team or like we'll have something maybe for that, specific, not for the full game, but like for that situation, we'll have it where coach might be like, hey, they're going to switch everything. So I want you to switch everything. I want to see what this looks like versus switching. Coach prepares a ton himself, film wise for like those situations and like what the game is going to bring, and kind of has his playbook and his ATOs prepared, that way. It's been great to learn under him because he's so prepared for every single game, where like he has his play card where he doesn't necessarily have like play calls, but he has a long list of ATOs that he has in his play bank. That from studying stuff through the summer and the fall, things that would work for our team and that he likes for our team. And he'll add to it during the year. He has this play bank, and that he'll have them. He's so smart that like he has them just written down, and so he can look at his piece of paper given the situation, be like, okay, hey, this is really good versus switching, this is what they're going to do, or hey, they're going to be in drop coverage, this set's really good for that. So he's the most prepared head coach I've ever been around for that stuff, and it's been awesome to learn from. So it's not necessarily us showing video of other to our players, but it's him having stuff prepared himself for what that given team is, and he kind of knows, hey, this is what their philosophies are. These are the actions and the things that I'm gonna, do and be prepared for late game. The other part of the cool part for us with ATOs is like we have media timeouts, and we have more timeouts and opportunities to run ATOs, than maybe a high school coach necessarily would, from that standpoint. But he's unbelievably prepared, for every game when it comes to like late game situations and ATOs, and so I've taken a lot from him.
So how often coming out, specifically, I mean, honestly, throughout, like you mentioned, you have the media timeouts and then you have your timeouts as well. How often are you guys coming out and, getting into a specific action, or is it ever just kind of getting back into the flow? Like is there ever a situation where where you're not running something coming out of a timeout and we're just sticking with where you guys are at, or how do you guys usually attack that
We'll
philosophy?
run something every time out. We'll run something every time out. And if you look like, so we have synergy at this level, and small college coaches do too, a lot of the times. And it's something that's awesome for us. So like when you synergy tracks like ATO percentage and like your success rate out of ATOs, and coaches since getting to Division 1, we've been top 5% in the country in like ATO success. And points, like 2 years ago when he was at Indiana State, like they were number one by far in point per possessions out of ATOs. It was like almost it was almost like 1.5 point per possession. It was a ridiculous number. Um, and so that's always been something coach has been really, really good at. And it's just because of his preparation and how he goes about doing it. And then also our guys' execution. Like we work on, you know, um, taking stuff from the board a lot, because like it's not plays that we have, but it's stuff he has drawn up. And so we work on, just because we do it naturally in practice, like we work on taking stuff from the board to the court a lot. And I think that's something that's really important, is like guys have to be good in ATOs, like you have to practice the guys taking it from the court. You either have to have the sets that you're ready to run, and so they know the sets, or if you're someone that wants to draw up new things for them, you have to work on it. Like that was the biggest thing I learned even with DMACC, is like we weren't so much a draw up play because it was just hard for our guys to see it the right way. We were more of a, hey, we're going to run this and let's execute this out of the ATO. Whereas here, we're more of a draw it up. And so we just have to work on, and they have to focus on, hey, we're drawing this up. You have to be prepared to execute this.
And how much would you say that the ATOs kind of play off what you guys are trying to do, whether it's in transition or whether it's in live ball type of sets? Is it something where you're like, all right, we're going to add this wrinkle, or we're going to try to flare off this screen, or, double drag coming out of this? Like how much of it is like, all right, this is normal concepts as far as what the guys know to kind of help ease that process of going from whiteboard to court?
It's definitely the same. It's the same. It's the same process. It's just more, okay, hey, here's an action that we're going to maybe tweak, or here's an action we're going to run. Because what we try to do a lot of in our offense and like our flow offense, it's teaching guys how to play, how to read the game. And so like if they're switching, this is what you should do. And one of our freshman bigs right now, his head is spinning. He's super talented, like his head's spinning right now because he can shoot, but yet we're also switching on him sometimes too. And so he doesn't know like when to seven, which is like screen and slip out, or when to actually set the screen and when to separate. Like he's all just on a basic little thing like that because he's never had to do it before. And so like we really, really work on teaching our guys how to play. So that way, based on what the other team's coverages are for things, and like we're preparing all week or whatever our prep time is for that. Um, they're ready for it. So that way, when they take it from the board, they kind of know like, hey, this guy's going to slip. This guy's going to probably do this. So this slip is going to be open. Like flare slips or something that we really like for switching because it's really hard to guard. Um, and so they kind of know like, hey, if they switch this flare, like be ready to slip this. And it's all because like we've taught them and talked about it since June on how to read the game and play the game from that standpoint. We've really focused and emphasized it all week leading up to the game as well. And so they should be prepared of like, hey, this team, like some teams are through where they stay on their matchups. Okay, well, if this team's through on their matchups, then you really want to set these screens, in this specific set and situation to try to get the guy open, so they're pretty prepared. It should be prepared based on like the preparation that we had leading up to the game.
You mentioned obviously the freshmen. We've all been there, and everyone that we talk to, obviously coming in as a freshman, and being in high school and being pretty good, and then you get to the college level, and it is a deer in the headlights, and it's just a
Mhm.
matter of getting them kind of caught up and ready to go. But a lot of communication obviously that needs to happen. What do you guys kind of do from a film side of things, specifically for the players? Is that something where you're assigning them like clips or segments to be like, hey, this is what I specifically want you to look at, or are you sending them home with that, or is that something where you guys are individually kind of in your teams with coaches kind of break down, or how do you guys kind of handle film with the players for them to be able to become more comfortable with it?
Yeah, so everybody on staff kind of has two, three, maybe four guys. We don't try to overload it too much because we as coaches need to like when we're watching our film. So like we'll watch film with our guys like a ton, basically every single day where like we're going through, we have film clips that we prepare for each guy that's in our film group. So like we're the ones that can run that film session for them. So it's great for us as a coaching staff to get that opportunity to like talk one-on-one with them. And then we watch team film every single day as well. So our guys get individual film every single day of just kind of them and things that they're struggling with or things they need to work on from that previous day in practice. And then we watch team film as well, which is like, okay, hey, here's some team things we're struggling on or that we want to show them as well. So film is huge for us because it's just that's the best way to like develop someone's IQ is through watching film.
Yeah, it's obviously such an important part of the game. It's obviously become a little bit easier with some of the software and stuff that we have, but you still gotta have the understanding. And then, like you said, it always feels like the hardest part is then executing. You can see something on film, you can draw it up on the whiteboard, but then going out and then executing is always the tough part. And I think that any coach would share that But so how do you guys talking late game then? How do you guys usually handle, and even with the shot clock and with your media timeouts and everything that you guys kind of have, how do you address, or what do you guys usually philosophy with 2 for 1 or a 3 for 2 situation? Is it something that you guys, and then how much time do you guys kind of spend on kind of
Yeah,
working
we
through that?
we haven't gotten too deep into the 3 for 2 stuff yet. Just because it's just not something that like we've thought enough of. We just haven't like really we focus on so many different things that we haven't gotten that far yet with it. Now, like I was a huge fan of 2 for 1s when I was at DMACC. What I used to like to do is just try to get like really just try to get like a guard to guard, like switch, like flat ball screen or guard to guard action where we could peel out to get either downhill, where we have like our point guard making a play downhill, or we could get a shooter a shot, and we kind of try to keep it pretty simple in 2 for 1s from that standpoint too. Is just like you can't run anything, you don't want to run anything too long because if the team takes away the initial action, and it's a long action, well, now all of a sudden you might get yourself out of the 2-for-1 situation. Um, so we usually, even here, we usually go like, we'll probably go flat high ball screen, here with it in a 2-for-1 situation, let our combo guards kind of make plays. Like the good part is we have Robbie, like Avila here, who's a great passing big and a great decision maker. So, even if you get it where you hit Robbie back on the pop, or we get Robbie in the seams off the action if they're in, through coverage. It allows him to have the ability to make a play, from that standpoint. But I just think like quick actions in those 2-for-1s are important because if you don't get anything off the initial action and it's a really long, drug out action, now all of a sudden the 2-for-1, is gone. And so we talk about it some, but it's more just like, hey, we want to go quick here. We do have some like 21 offense stuff, which are like quick, plays for us to be able to try to, usually it's, some double gaps and things to try to get guys downhill or get, some quick kickouts, from that standpoint. So we do have about 3 or 4 21 series plays to try to get, some 2-for-1s.
And is that something that you've noticed the players have been able to kind of recognize and pick up pretty quickly as far as like
It
kind
depends.
of
Yeah, it just depends. Like a lot of it is we'll get a vibe for it and we'll kind of call out. That's kind of the nice part about having like what we do with the play calls, we call like 21 something. And so that way the guys kind of knows like, okay, hey, it's a 2-for-1 situation. From that standpoint. So we talk about it. We'll talk about it in film. We'll talk about it in like, walk through stuff or special situation stuff that we'll get into in practice. And so, yeah, I think they have a pretty solid feel of like, hey, 21 out offense is like, we want to try to get a 2-for-1 here.
Yeah. Well, and like you said earlier too, it's especially at that level, it always seems to come down to 2 or 3 possessions. And so being
Mhm.
able to stretch or steal a possession here or there is obviously something that is huge for you guys at your level. So then how do you guys first of all, do you call them inbounds plays or out of bounds plays if we're running underneath the hoop? What do you
So he calls them out of bounds under. So it's OOBUs.
okay,
Weird. I've always forget about it. I call them baseline like blobs, but like, oh,
blobs.
yeah, he calls them out of bounds under. So
That's
OOB.
that's Yeah, that's well, because it was always blobs and slobs, but then you'll hear the inbounds, like, hey, inbounds plays, and you're like, oh, okay, and I'm like, which one is it? Obviously, it all means the same, but it's just unusual because usually when you talk about something, it's one thing. But um, so that's interesting with that. But so then when you guys are coming out, like with both your blobs and your slobs type sets, is this something that like how many variations do you guys have? Is it like an endless amount, or is there kind of a core thing and then there's a read and react element to depending on what happens?
So blob out of bounds unders, it's kind of just a core thing. We're not huge out of bound under people. It's more like get the ball in, maybe get into an action type
Yeah.
thing than like get a scoring action out of. It's actually a really huge debate on our staff. It's actually always funny.
Okay.
We have guys that
Sounds
are like huge, like, oh, we should try to score more points off of them, and he's more like, well, no, let's just get the ball in and like get a good shot, because it's all
yeah.
the same possession. Like, why does it matter? Um, which is a very NBA thing of coach, which tracks. Sideline
Right.
outbounds now, he likes those more because like those are more what you see with NBA stuff. You have
True.
so those we usually have like a base, but then if it's like a special situation, we have a series of plays, series of stuff that like all are similar, but then little tweaks, within them for the play, like
Yeah.
to get like whatever specific thing we're looking for. So like there's one if we need a two, there's one if we need a three, stuff like that. So
And I want to get to that. That's so stay tuned, everybody. That's where we'll end. Is I want to eventually we'll get you on the whiteboard and show us what you do if you need a two and what you do if you need a three here. But as far as just offensive philosophy in general, is there? Tell me a little bit as far as like what's your attack zones, like where you're trying to get the ball, what kind of generally fits both coaches' style, and then holistically as far as what you guys have going as far as the philosophy.
yeah, I think the biggest thing that like the biggest thing is like it's very analytic based. Um, we're trying to get as many non-paint, non-dribble twos as we can, trying to get as many free throws, and we're trying to get as many kick out threes. The difference with the not like the non-paint or the non-dribble twos are like what we're really trying to get. And so like what those are is like a cut where you can just go score the layup because usually those are unguarded. Those are the highest percentage shot in the game. Is like a cut or those unguarded layups from that standpoint. But we're always trying to really play with force and get paint touches in our offense. Now, what we do more is we run a lot more split cuts. We'll still ball screen and stuff like that as well. But because of like Robbie's passing and how we try to do our stuff offensively, we get a lot more cutting. Cut layups than most people. Like we're like since coach has been in Division 1, so and they've tracked this, he's been they were the first year what they were like outside the top 10 if I remember right, but then they were first his last 2 years at Indiana State in the country in 2-point field goal percentage, and then this past year we were third in the country in 2-point field goal percentage. And so people think like, oh, they're really good 2-point field goal percentage. You just think old school, like, oh, well, they're throwing it to a big and he's scoring around the basket. It's like, no, we don't. Robbie's a very good player, but Robbie's not like that's not what Robbie is. He can do it, but that's not his biggest strength. Is ours come from cut layups, and so trying to get as many cut layups, teaching guys how to, read gaps in the shell and be able to cut, for layups and stuff like that. That way, that's where coaches' teams are always really good offensively, and that's what we're really trying to get as much as we can. And then with that usually comes kick out threes. Coach, I think we've been top three in the country the last 3 years in threes made. He's had two guys each of the last 2 years make over 100 threes in a season. The year before that, we had one guy make over 110. So, it's always been a huge part of our offense, but it's everybody thinks sometimes it's like what we're hunting is like, no, we're actually hunting paint. But because we hunt paint so much, we're able to get these kick out, three opportunities.
And so you talked about obviously the split cuts. You guys, I'm trying to remember specifically more from the Indiana State days, but then you cut from the 45 a lot, and then what do you guys, and then dunker as well, or where are these cuts traditionally trying to come from?
Yeah, corner cuts and 45 cuts
Okay.
more often than not. Yeah, so like we're trying to keep it simple right now with our guys too. Is like, okay, baseline, you drive baseline, usually it should be the 45 guy that should cut. You drive middle, usually corner cut, and then we call it Clyde cut, and then you fill behind, in the corner from that standpoint. But a lot of times it's corner and 45 cuts. The other thing we do differently than a lot of schools is like we play out of the seams a lot. So what that is play out of the short roll. And so in the short roll, you're able to get a ton of corner cuts from that standpoint. So like our team actually right now has picked that up really well. We're a very good corner cutting team, especially in short roll situations, which is really
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, right. Hard to guard, and like he says, high percentage is obviously what's going to lead to that, and then kick out situations as well, which create obviously in and out is oftentimes what we're looking for, and so that's amazing. No, that's great. What's your guys' then philosophy as far as trying to get downhill and get to the foul line? Like, how do you guys try to attack the paint? I know you mentioned that was kind of number two on your list. What's the philosophy as far as trying to create opportunities at the foul line?
Yeah, it's really based on personnel more than anything. Like we want to be able to in transition, if we can have a guard that can just touch paint on his own, like that's the best thing that we want is like guys that can just kind of touch paint and transition on their own. And so like if we're playing with space and pace, we've got a few guys that are really, really good getting downhill and being able to touch paint there. If not, that's where we get into we'll run ball screen actions, we'll get into some zoom actions, from that standpoint. Last year we didn't have as much playmaking and guys that could play with force off the dribble. So we had to post as well. And that's another way that you kind of forget about. But honestly, a lot of it is, not necessarily guys just trying to drive a packed defense. It's more guys understanding, let's move the basketball, let's create some triggers and some action, and then we'll be able to loosen the defense up to be able to now drive closeouts or to, drive, and be able to get downhill. So that's where like teaching the guys how to play and like when things get stagnant, okay, what's the next trigger we can get into to keep our offense flowing? And so like a trigger is like just something to be able to create action, ball screen, DHO, a flare, like a split action. It's just something to keep the offense moving so you're just not standing there dribbling or holding the basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's interesting. I know we're talking mostly on the offensive side of the ball, but late game situation also includes a little bit on the defensive end. And specifically, what's your guys' philosophy with the always debated up three foul situation? How do you guys believe in that, or what do you got? Obviously situational again, but generally, what's the philosophy around the up three?
Yeah, so it's situational for us where coach has a time. So it's 7.5 seconds, between 7.5 seconds and 2.5 seconds will foul.
Okay,
So the reasoning behind that is anything above 7.5, if you foul, you have enough time to like get the ball back. And then anything under 2.5 is too close of a catch and shoot situation where you're fouling them. There's a chance that you're fouling a guy as he's shooting the ball.
gotcha. And is that something too then that you work with the guys as far as like talking? Obviously, I assume in that window going away from the hoop, trying to foul with them going away from the hoop as opposed to like you said, like in a catch and shoot or rip through type of
Yeah. Yep.
situation.
Yep.
And is that something that you guys work on and you spend some practice time on?
Yeah, so that's where like, when the situations come up in those 4 minute games or those 2 minute games or like in our 70 games, those come up like that's where we'll get to coach that there. We have a call for it as well, like call it smack. So like say they're dribbling full court and we're like, okay, hey, at half court we want to, smack, you want to foul them there. So that way, even if we don't have, a timeout, like our guys kind of know like, hey, like at half court, foul, smack, there to try to make that call, try to get them to make that call. Usually half courts is solid time just because like they've taken a couple dribbles and they're not ready to shoot it. Obviously, guys are getting more smart, with the situation, so you got to be a little bit careful. But yeah, no, it's something we talk about, in coach during those segments.
That's good. So as you were talking there and thinking too from coach's experience and his ability, first of all, that it's got to be a little rare to have a head coach that's spending that much time on film study and has like that much breakdown, which I also think going all the way back to you were talking about how high the points per possession are, especially coming out of ATOs and how much, of ATOs and sets in which that you run when the header's doing it and he's got confidence in what he's doing, it feels like it's pretty easy to keep coming after it. But unusual, like I said, usually it's something where staff. I know you guys are still plugging through and doing stuff, but where do you guys land as would you like to see the rule change to the women's game where you get to advance the ball and run some slobs, or are you old school
Oh,
traditionalists?
for sure.
Let's keep
Yeah.
it keep it.
No, no, no. Yeah, advance the ball. It just makes it more fun.
Uh,
Just makes it more fun for I think everybody, to be honest with you.
Yeah, isn't it a little wild that or the men's game we're holding out here is the only one now that, I mean, you watch the NBA, you watch the WNBA, you watch the women's game, it's like timeout, advance the ball, like let's run a set, let's make it fun.
Yeah,
Not that the full court stuff's not, but
no, it's just weird that like it's the only level of basketball that plays halves, like oh anywhere. So it
right.
just it's weird. That's the only thing. It's just like not even for like the fun of like the late game stuff. It's just like literally we're the only sport, or basketball, league in the world that doesn't play quarters. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's true too. And the fact that yeah, like it's basketball. Like obviously it changes the men like there are but like the rules should kind of all be the same. Like if whether you're playing in high school, you're playing in college, you're playing in the NBA, like it should be all right, 4 quarters, how much time are the quarters? You know what I mean? Shot clock, how long's the shot clock? Like And that's the other thing too, that for another pod, but every one of these high schools need to get a shot clock in place too, and let's just start playing the rules away, and so these kids can come to the next level and be prepared. Have you noticed? This is more of my own personal curiosity. Have you noticed anything with some of these states that have not started playing high school with the shot clock, as far as kids coming out of them and whether or not they're comfortable with it as much as others who have?
Um, Not necessarily, just because like I remember, so I was still at DMACC when Iowa was going to introduce the shot clock. So I remember meeting with a couple different high school coaches, and they were asking me all these questions. And I literally told them, I was like, Coach, I don't remember if we had 5 possessions all year where the shot clock actually came into play. And I think coaches have found that it doesn't really come into play all that much. Um, and so no, not really. We also, I can't say we've recruited a kid that like played in such a slow offense
Style.
that
Hmm.
like they were just so used to moving the ball. Like all freshmen kind of have a little bit of a issue with it, just because like they didn't grow up having like the clock manage, like the idea of, oh hey, I gotta understand what the clock situation is.
Yep.
But we don't run into it a ton. And honestly, we run into it as much with like just our team in general, because in the summer, like they're not really thinking that through as
Yep.
much, like that, oh, there's so much time on the shot clock. I need to get this shot up. Like it wouldn't matter if it's a freshman or sometimes just a new guy or whatever. So yeah, we don't run into it a ton.
That's
I
interesting.
do think it's one of those things that's like super overthought of. Like it
Yeah.
like yeah.
That's something that I've said too, just now having an opportunity to watch at the high school level for a couple of years. I'm like, there, like you said, there's probably 2 times in a game that maybe it even becomes a thing.
Mm.
Especially at the high school level, it's a little different because either you shoot it or you turn it over before you get to that point anyway. So it's like trying to worry about the shot clock. Um, it's kind of a waste of time, honestly, at that level. But it is nice every time I see that clip from Illinois or wherever it's at, and they're holding the ball for the whole quarter. Like that's, I'm like, all right, let's get
Oh
things
no, I
going.
mean, yeah, I was at I can't remember where I was. I think I was at Wayne State at the time, and I was at the North Scott. I think it was North Scott. I don't want to throw
Yeah.
these, but it was Pleasant Valley, Des Moines Valley, West Des
Okay.
Moines Valley, and it was where they had Turner Scott for West Des Moines
Oh
Valley.
yeah.
I can't remember who Pleasant Valley had. Um, but like each team got one possession. Like it went to 3 overtimes, and each team got one possession the first 2 overtime. It was, so there was 4 possessions and 3 overtimes. It was awful. It was
Yeah.
absolutely awful.
It's hard. It's just brutal. And like I get it from a philosophy too, as far as what you're trying to do to try to win and put your kids in the best opportunity to win. But for the rest of us, like trying to watch these games, like come on now. Like
No, for sure.
that's where it gets painful. So, all right, coach. Well, before I let you out of here, I want to see what you can work up for me here as far as a situation where so let's start with down three. Down three, we need to get a clean look. Hopefully for one of our better shooters. What's something you got in your back pocket that has kind of been a go-to? Either something that you might not necessarily run now, or it's something that you've always kind of liked or had success with in the past as far as coming out of ATO to get a three.
Yeah, so are we going baseline or sideline or like
Let's go.
line, or are we
Let's
going just
let's
regular?
start on the side. Start on the sideline.
All right,
Yep.
perfect. All right. So honestly, a good part of like what we do is like you can run a lot of this stuff, regardless of where the ball is necessarily. So that's one of the good things. But one of the best ones that I've seen is just kind of uh, the old school elevator from the corner here off the sideline. You just kind of run it towards you, here. So what we'll do is got the inbounder right here with the ball. All right. We'll usually try to have our shooter right here, big, and then kind of another big here with it, and then we'll have another guard down here. So I don't know how well you can see all that, but
Yep.
what we'll do is we'll try to stagger these guys, the shooter, to the corner here and loop him all the way through. We'll set this screen, have the guard come up. All right, here, try to hit the guard. As he goes here, both of these guys are gonna come get our shooter. All right, our shooter's coming through, and then we're gonna loop him back. All right, and try to hit the shooter coming back through on the corner there, through that gate. So that way you have the inbounder here off of it. What you can even do just to kind of fake the action, depending on how much time, you can have this guy chase it and he can fake a handoff here. So you can fake the handoff and to try to make the action think you're going that way. That gives these two bigs time to get that gate, and then you can time it out where the fake handoff happens. Boom, you run him through this gate. So you kind of get everybody think you're going that way, get him back coming through the gate, and you can get him through the gate, there.
That's good. And then obviously a variation of that, so say you're down two, on the road situation, then you give that guy that read at the top too, because maybe he does that dribble handoff, or he can throw it to the guy coming through on the gate.
100%, because like what it works really well with is it gives you two different options if you're down two, where you can hand it to the guy and he can get downhill, or if they're switching, you can fake it. Now the guy up at the top of the key can get downhill because you have all this fake action going on over there as well. So it works both ways, where you can get a three out of it, or you can get a handoff, or you can get a fake handoff. The other part too is if you really wanted to mess people up a little bit. So I'm just gonna draw it once it's in.
Okay.
The ball's in bounds. Sorry, this isn't gonna be pretty here. So the ball is up here with this guard. All right. So let's say he ran off. So say you have your shooter here, the big. All right, your big, say you have a big that's a good shooter as well now. Well, you can keep the guard there and you can have this big flare and you can go that way as well. So if everybody thinks the gate's coming, now all of a sudden you can have the big flare in for the other big, and you can just keep the shooter there on the block and you can flare him as well. Flares are really, really good late game situations just because they're just so hard to guard from that side.
Right. And then could you pop if that big can shoot? You could run your shooters through the gap or through the gate, right? And then hopefully they chase, and then he's available to pop.
Yeah, for sure. So like the one other one, say you don't have a ton of time, say you don't have enough time to run the whole thing,
Yep.
but you have a big that's a good shooter as well. So like again, this is where like you can have three different plays all in the same action. So say this is your shooting big here, you have your shooter here, your other guard here, big here. They set this stagger. He curls it down. Well, this big can just go pin him in, and now you bring the other big back here. All right, and say it's like a 2 second, you have 2 seconds on the clock, you can't get it. You can screen him, you can flare this big in, and try to get this big coming back to the ball and get a shot, as well from that standpoint.
Yeah, I like that. Almost, I mean, not necessarily a false action, because if that shooter can get it through the first gate, then give it to him. But if not, then you have your big floating to the corner.
Right. Because the other part too, honestly, like if for some reason this shouldn't in theory work, but you never know. Like if you need a two as well, like you could try to see if that over the top to the shooter is open too. Like if they trail him out and they're so worried about the three here to the corner, if
They could
throw
top
that
lock.
action and you can throw it over the top, like that's a good idea to be able to have as well. It's just a hard pass. And it's just give it like, it's one of those like, again, like it's just an option in the play. I think that can work well.
Yeah, no, that's good. All right, what do you got? So sideline, so you got a little extra time, down two, so you just need a bucket here, sorry, down one. So let's go down one. So you just need to get a bucket. You have some time, so you don't want to leave a bunch necessarily on the clock. What are you doing to kind of take your time and get a guaranteed a good look and or a foul?
Okay. Okay, so what we'll do here is, so wait, say the situation again.
Down one.
Mhm.
Need to score. And so you're like 12, let's say like 12 seconds. So you got a little extra time here. So you don't want to leave too much.
Trying to remember where we, yeah, okay. Uh, here, here. So what we'll do is we'll have 3 across here. This is the guard that we want to get the ball to. So what we'll do is we'll loop low, he'll loop over the top. And we usually want this to be like our second best guard right there. So the big will kind of rub screen them. And then what we'll try to do is, depending on how heavy, like if they're guarding him closely, we'll go screen him and try to get him on the run with the ball so we can hit him on the run. And now all of a sudden it allows him to attack downhill. If they're not guarding the big, if they're not guarding him close up here, what we'll do is he'll start to creep up and we'll try to hit him. And now the big's just kind of setting a flat ball screen and we're playing off of a flat ball screen there. But it's just a read of like, okay, hey, how closely are they guarding this guard that we want to get the ball to from that standpoint. But now all of a sudden it's just a quick way to be able to get the ball and make a high ball screen. This has been a play coaches run. Like we've won in my 2 years with coach, we've won 3 different games running this play, just getting the ball to the kid, like our best guy, and allowing him to make a play.
Yeah, usually always trying to stay in that middle third.
We're trying to stay in the middle third. We want to give him that whole middle third to be able to go.
And then where does the inbounder go after this?
Will go ball side and just kind of stay as low as he can, so that way the man doesn't get into the play.
Gotcha. That's good. All right. All right. Give me a. I know you guys. It's still up for debate, but what do you got on a OB under?
OB under.
Yeah. What do you got to get yourself a 3 here?
All right. Give me 1 sec here. I messed up our board, so up here. So what we do, need a 3 OB under is so the ball is gonna, that's bad. I'm horrible at drawing courts. I don't know why I don't just draw.
Everybody is, so it's funny.
There we go. We're gonna do that. That's what
there you go.
All right. So what we'll do is so we'll go big here, big here. Our shooter's here. Our other guard is right here. So this is one of my favorite plays that we'll run. It seems to work every single time we run it. So shooter, tight curls down here. All right. Now this guard's gonna try to think. Big's gonna pop out here. All right. This big's gonna kind of come set this screen right here for us. Guard's gonna come out. All right, this way. Or sorry, big doesn't come out. I'm messing up the play now. All right. Big's gonna come out here. This guard's gonna curl all the way to the corner. All right. Now this guard is gonna come back through, all right, to the wing off of it. And so what you're looking for is you got this guy here, but what always ends up being open is this guard, this second guard coming out and getting that 3, from that standpoint. So, but you got to have this first. So he tight curls, this other guard curls tight to the corner. And then what ends up happening is this next guard comes up and this big that sets the kind of stepped up, sets this first screen. Really, it's a cleanup screen where he's finding this guy and he's popping straight back out kind of the 45 spot. He gets to the 45 spot for a 3.
So is shooter decoy on that one?
No, the shooter's the one that you look for. That first cut is the decoy. So I'll draw it a little bit cleaner here.
Okay. So the shooter though curls all the way back to your 45 is what you're
big guard. So this shooter's gonna curl all the way here to the rim.
Yeah.
Big steps up, All right, he's going to screen for this next guard coming through to the corner.
Oh, okay. And then your shooter follows.
And now this next screen for him, he's coming down and he's cleaning up.
Yep.
We're trying to
Gotcha.
get back on the back.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I had that big pop. Okay, that makes sense. I think I
Yeah,
had the
no,
big
now
popping up
this is a
before.
live shot. Like if he can get
Yeah.
it, but we're looking for that shooter more often than not. That shooter. Now this is also a good one. So again, say we need a two,
Mm-hmm.
we can run the same thing. And now this this guard's in the corner, shooter's here. Shooter can set this back screen and try to get him going to the basket there. Or sometimes we'll even if we need, if we know a team's not going to switch things, we can set this back screen and we can pop him out here. All right, try to get that.
Yeah.
So both of them, even if we just needed two, both of those shots can be live. Like this back screen can be there, or we can get his three, off of it from there.
That's good. How do you think about the player throwing the inbound pass? What do you usually do? I feel like sometimes it can be a little bit of an afterthought, but we've all been in a situation where um, for whatever reason the kid that's taking it out gets nervous, gets anxious. And so how do you usually do that? Like, is that something where position based, situation based? Who do you usually
Um,
want to take the ball
so
out?
it's usually a guard. It's usually kind of basically like our next best guard that isn't like either our shooter that we're trying to get in the action or um yeah, that's probably the easiest way to put it is like
Yeah.
usually we have one guy that's like a perimeter player that maybe isn't necessarily the offensive option.
Hmm.
Like a good passer, good decision maker, from that standpoint. So now sometimes the play will depend on like say we don't have a lineup where we have a guy that can do that, and it's really just our options are two guys. Now the good part is we have Robbie as well, so like Robbie can be any of those options, or we'll run certain things for him, but it's just hard. Most people don't have a guy like Robbie, so
Right.
I didn't want to show some of the things we do for him
Yeah.
necessarily. But that's a big part of it too. Is like there's times we'll have Robbie just take the ball out because he's a really smart player. He's a good passer. So it's
Yeah.
really just kind of like your next guy that you can trust making the pass. That's not one of the offensive threats.
Yeah.
One
That
of the
makes
offensive
sense.
options.
And then do you find that will change if you're a baseline under and maybe trying to score versus a slob where you're on the sideline and more trying to get it in to get into your action?
Yeah,
Does
it just
that vary?
depends on like, say it's the slob, say it's one where we like are trying to get downhill. We might have a guy that's a little bit better shooter take the ball out, and then the guy that takes, is more downhill, in the action. If it's where we're trying to get a three, we'll probably have the shooter involved and the guy that's a, better ball handler, take the ball out. So just kind of depends on that.
I imagine the answer to this is yes, but like, you have some wrinkles on where your inbounder then becomes your threat as well? Is that something?
Yeah, yeah, we have some stuff where like the inbounder is, but usually if it's that short of a situation,
Hmm.
um, it's usually where we're trying to get a shot. If it's a longer situation, we'll just get the ball in and start and like get into a quick action.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes sense. So good, coach. That was awesome. I appreciate you going through some of that and kind of breaking some stuff down. It's fun to kind of get a look and see a little bit of what your guys' philosophy is and what you guys are working on. And so I wish you guys the best of luck here, summer, as you guys continue to get these guys up to speed and going. And then, like you said before, you know it, you guys will be in the fall, you'll be scrimmaging, and then the real fun starts. And so we wish you the best of luck. We appreciate you taking some time and sharing some insight with us today.
No, absolutely. Hopefully you can see the board well enough, and hopefully this can help some people.
Absolutely, that's the goal. So we appreciate it as always. Shooters shoot.